Hey there, Star Wars fans, and welcome to Screen Rant. I'm Greg Elliott, and all my Star Wars shirts are dirty, but this is a Mandalorian video, and I'm a man wearing a DeLorean shirt, so that kind of works, right? Right. So the first episode of The Mandalorian was a veritable cornucopia of Star Wars references and Easter eggs, and while episode 2 was a bit more measured in that regard, it still contains a number of nods to the original Star Wars trilogy, as well as the wider mythology of the franchise. So here's everything that we caught in The Child, the second episode of The Mandalorian. Picking right up where episode 1 left off, the Mandalorian heads back to his ship with what for now I'm calling Baby Yoda. On his way, he gets into a fight with a small group of Trandoshans, which is the same species that Bossk belongs to, one of the bounty hunters hired by Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, so maybe Bossk is around somewhere too. Episode 2 also gave us a closer look at Jawas when the Mandalorian discovers them stripping his ship for parts. We finally got a look at the inside of a sandcrawler, and one of the Jawa even stuns him with the same kind of weapon used on R2-D2 in A New Hope, but not before he was able to take a few of them down. Which brings us to our next Easter egg, or Easter Suka, I guess. In The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader warns Boba Fett no disintegrations during his mission briefing, which we always just took to mean that Boba was a particularly nasty mercenary, but as the Mandalorian says in the episode, I'm a Mandalorian, weapons are a part of my religion, and we finally got to see just what that rifle of his is really capable of, so I guess it's a good thing that Boba wasn't allowed to use that on Han. So while Boba Fett is clearly the primary inspiration for The Mandalorian, the character on the show also shows some similarities to his old man Jango. Most notably, our Mando is armed with a wrist-mounted flamethrower, the same kind that Jango is seen using in the prequel trilogy. And the Mudhorn that he gets into a fight with does kind of resemble the Reek that Jango fights in Attack of the Clones, albeit a bit hairier. We also got a quick mention of Wookiees when the Mandalorian tries to speak Jawa'ese to the Jawas that stole his stuff. Apparently sounding like a Wookiee is an insult in the Star Wars universe, so just make sure to not let Chewie hear you say that. And now let's talk about the scene where Baby Yoda gets out of his pod to try to help the Mandalorian with the Force. Did that give anyone else vibes of the scene where Yoda lifts Luke's X-Wing out of the swamp in The Empire Strikes Back? Baby Yoda even starts to get all squinchy-faced right before the Mandalorian hilariously cuts him short, and the fact that the kid eats a frog could also be a subtle reference to how fans, and even George Lucas himself, have referred to Yoda in the past.
This is actually the illegitimate child of Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy.
Oh, man.
Another interesting reference, or maybe non-reference, is how neither the Mandalorian nor Quill seem to have any knowledge of the Force, even after what little Baby Yoda has just done. Now, while this may seem weird considering this takes place after Return of the Jedi, remember the galaxy's a big place and many still view the Force and the Jedi as a myth if they even know about them at all. Star Wars is often described as a space western, and The Mandalorian definitely has that feel to it too. The end of the episode in particular seems to have a clear nod to the 1953 film Shane, where Quill thanks the Mandalorian for bringing peace to his valley, which is very similar to the "there aren't any more guns in the valley" line from the end of the film. And the last teeny tiny thing we notice is that the onboard navigation system on the Mandalorian ship has the same old school look we've seen in other ships like X-Wings. Now it seems a little old fashioned, but it definitely fits into the aesthetic that's been established in the Star Wars universe so far. And that's it, I think. If you caught anything we didn't, please let us know in the comments, and keep coming back to Screen Rant each week for more breakdowns on The Mandalorian. I'm Greg Elliott, and I'll see you around. Peace.